The scent of sizzling onions and cumin hit me the moment I pushed open the glass door of Sol y Sabor, my grandfather's Mexican restaurant. For 38 years, these same aromas had welcomed loyal customers, but for me, they meant home. Isabella, my grandfather's voice, still strong despite his recent hospital stay, called from his favorite table near the kitchen where he could survey the entire dining room. You came. I rushed over, carefully helping him rise for our ritual hug. At 78, Abuelo Mateo looked thinner than I remembered, but his eyes still shone with the same fierce determination that built this place from scratch. Of course I came, I said, sliding into the chair across from him. Your message sounded serious. He glanced around the bustling dinner crowd, lowering his voice. Your uncles, Javier and Luis, they've been stopping by more and more, asking questions about the restaurant's paperwork. My chest tightened. Javier and Luis had never cared about Sol y Sabor before, except when they needed cash after their ventures failed. What kind of questions? About the deed, about the accounts. He pulled out a thick envelope from inside his jacket. That's why I need you to keep these before they try anything. Inside were power of attorney papers already notarized, plus copies of the deed, bank accounts, and business licenses. Abuelo, are you sure? He reached across the table, gripping my hand with surprising force. You're the only one who loves this place like I do, the only one who understands what it means. Those boys only see dollar signs. I opened my mouth to reply, but he was overtaken by a coughing fit. You should be resting, I said, helping him drink water. This place keeps me alive, he whispered. I promise, I'll protect it. That was our last true conversation. 2 days later, he was hospitalized again. 3 weeks after that, we were planning his funeral. I was in Chicago, preparing a pitch for a major architecture contract. I was in the middle of preparing final renderings for a Chicago skyscraper proposal when the call came. Abuelo had passed quietly in his sleep. By the time I reached O'Hare, my uncles had already seized control of everything. The funeral blurred into days of black dresses and endless trays of tamales, distant cousins murmuring stories about a man they'd barely visited. I noticed Javier and Luis huddled in corners, whispering with relatives, but grief numbed me too much to care. It wasn't until a week later, when I went to check on Sol y Sabor, that I realized something was terribly wrong. The lights were off. A faded closed sign hung crooked in the window, a strange sight for a Friday night. Through the glass, I saw chairs stacked upside down on tables. My key still fit. Inside, the silence was suffocating. No sizzling pans, no clinking glasses, no happy chatter. Only stillness and lingering spices. Looking for something? I spun around. Javier and Luis stood blocking the doorway, wearing identical smug expressions. Why's the restaurant closed? I demanded, though a sick feeling twisted in my gut. Sold it, Javier said lightly, as though mentioning the weather. Got a sweet deal from developers. They're tearing down the whole block for luxury lofts, Luis added, smirking. My world tilted. You, what? Sold it, Luis repeated. Slower, mocking me. We're executors of Abuelo's estate. Time to bring this property into the 21st century. You can't sell it, I said, my voice trembling though I stood my ground. You don't have the authority. They laughed, exchanging a look that made my blood boil. Already done, Izzy, Javier grinned. Papers signed, money wired. My hand found the envelope I'd carried since that dinner with Abuelo. Actually, I said, producing the documents. You didn't. What? Their grins vanished as I laid out the notarized power of attorney. Graded to me 3 weeks before Abuelo passed, legally binding, which means, I smiled, you tried to sell property you didn't own. The silence felt endless. Even Chicago traffic outside seemed to freeze. You're bluffing, Louise choked out. Call your lawyer, I advised. Or better yet, call the developers. They'll want their money back. Louise lunged for the papers, but I was quicker, sliding them safely back into my tote. Already filed copies with Cook County, I said evenly, and with my attorney. And the restaurant's corporate counsel. Wanna guess how many laws you just broke? We're family, Javier sputtered. You can't. Family? I cut him off sharply. Family doesn't sell their grandfather's legacy before the funeral flowers have even wilted. Family doesn't try to cash out decades of sacrifice for a quick payday. The developers offered $6 million, Louise said, as though the sum would justify everything. Be reasonable, Izzy. Drifted to the wall of photographs beside the entrance. Decades of memories caught in sun-faded frames. Abuelo's parents opening the original taqueria in 1952. Abuelo taking over in 1985, growing it into Sol y Sabor. Me, age 7, standing on a stool to stir a giant pot of pozole. This place isn't for sale, I said softly. Not now, not ever. You'll regret this, Javier snapped. We've already spent some of that money. The developers won't be happy. I turned back to them, summoning every ounce of Abuelo's grit. No, you'll regret this. Because tomorrow morning I'm calling the state's attorney about real estate fraud. Unless... They leaned closer, eyes greedy. Unless what? Unless you both sign paperwork relinquishing any claim to Sol y Sabor, permanently, walk away, pay back whatever you spent, and I won't press charges. That's blackmail, Louise hissed. No, I corrected calmly. That's mercy. Far more than you deserve. More than you showed Abuelo. They stormed out, slamming the door so hard a picture frame rattled. I stood alone in the quiet restaurant, surrounded by spices and the hum of neon lights outside. I promised I'd protect it, Abuelo, I whispered, and I will. But locking up that night, I knew the fight wasn't over. My uncles wouldn't back down, the developers wouldn't either, and my architecture project in Chicago couldn't wait forever. Sometimes, protecting what matters means fighting on every front. I was ready. By dawn, I woke to 20 missed calls and furious texts from relatives. Word was out, the granddaughter blocking millions. The power of attorney that changed everything. If you've ever fought to protect something you love, don't miss what happens next. Subscribe and join me for the rest of this battle. The story's far from over. The uncles who had been exposed for trying to sell what was never theirs. My Aunt Lucia's voicemail dripped venom. Who do you think you are, Isabella? Those men were doing what's best for everyone. You're just selfish, just like your father. I dressed carefully, choosing a navy pantsuit that signaled business. Today wasn't about family grudges. It was about protecting what mattered. Sterling Development Partners occupied the top floor of a gleaming glass tower in Chicago's Loop, worlds away from Sol y Sabor's weathered brick facade and hand-painted sign. Mr. Vega, Bradley Sterling said smoothly, striding forward in a suit worth more than my car. I'm glad you came. I was hoping we could resolve this unfortunate situation. I sat across from his massive walnut desk, eyeing the sleek scale models of luxury lofts displayed like trophies. The situation, I said evenly, is that you tried to buy property from people who never owned it. He gave a polished smile. We performed our due diligence. Your uncles identified themselves as executors of the estate. Without checking for an existing power of attorney, I arched a brow. That's not very diligent. He pressed on, ignoring me. Permits are in motion, contractors scheduled, we're well into pre-construction. All of it, illegal, I said. Because you don't own the property. Bradley leaned forward, steepling his fingers. Mrs. Vega, we're prepared to offer you $7 million. That's $1 million more than we offered your uncles. Everyone benefits. I stood, smoothing my blazer. Mr. Sterling, this meeting was a courtesy. The restaurant isn't for sale. Any permits you've filed are already being challenged. I suggest you start unwinding your deals. You're making a mistake, he called as I reached the door. The neighborhood's changing. You can't stop progress. I turned. My grandfather built Sol y Sabor while your dad was still sweeping construction sites. Progress doesn't mean erasing history. Back at Sol y Sabor, I found Javier and Luis waiting, their lawyers shifting nervously. We're contesting the power of attorney, Javier declared. Abuelo wasn't in his right mind. He was ill, I agreed, unlocking the door, but perfectly clear-headed. Want to see the medical report? And the video of him explaining his choice? Their lawyer looked pale. Video recording? Luis scoffed. I nodded, flipping open my laptop. Abuelo might have been old school in many ways, but he respected modern legal precautions. Shall we watch? The video played in crisp detail. Abuelo sat in his favorite booth, his eyes sharp, his voice steady as he explained why he was granting me power of attorney. Isabella knows Sol y Sabor isn't just a business. It's our heritage. The others, they'd sell our soul for fast cash. Javier slapped the laptop shut. This is garbage. Language, I snapped. We're still in Abuelo's restaurant. Their lawyer cleared his throat. Mega, my clients have already spent significant portions of the developer's advance. That sounds like a them problem, I replied, not a me problem. We'll go public, Luis threatened. Tell everyone how you manipulated a sick old man. Please do, I challenged. Explain how you tried to sell his life's work behind his back. I'm sure every Chicago news outlet would love that headline. Greedy nephews attempt real estate fraud. Has a nice ring to it. Their lawyer quickly pulled them aside, whispering with increasing urgency. I watched their faces transform from anger to raw panic. The paperwork renouncing your claims, I said, sliding manila envelopes onto a table, is still here. Sign now, pay back what you spent, and this stays private. We don't have the money, Javiera muttered. We invested it. Of course they had. I didn't even want to know in what half-baked venture. Figure it out, I said coolly. Sell your cars, take out loans, mortgage your houses, but make this right. With trembling hands they signed. Their lawyer inspected each page, nodding, defeated. After they left, I wandered through Sol y Sabor, trailing my fingertips along the polished oak bar where Abuelo used to spin tales of Veracruz. My phone buzzed, a text from my Chicago project manager. Need you back, client restless. I'd built a thriving career as an architect, one with no salsa recipes or legal brawls. A career now teetering under all this chaos. The bell over the door jingled. I turned to see Lucia, my aunt, arms crossed. You've destroyed those boys, she hissed. Their credit, their names. They destroyed themselves, I shot back, by trying to steal and sell what wasn't theirs. It's just a restaurant, Lucia snapped. No, I said softly. It's everything Abuelo built. Everything he believed in, everything he protected for us. He's gone, Isabella. Gone, and you're clinging to a building like it's him. I walked to the wall of photos, pointing to one from 1985. See this? The day Abuelo took over from his parents. He was a man alone, trying to run a restaurant when banks didn't even want to lend to immigrants. He mortgaged his house, worked 18-hour days, built Sol y Sabor into something that supported our whole family. Ucha fell silent. How many times did he help Javier and Luis? I pressed on. How many of their failed businesses did he quietly bail out? How many family emergencies did he cover with money from this just a restaurant? That's different. No, it's exactly the same. He protected us, even when we didn't deserve it. Now it's my turn to protect what he built. Lucia's shoulders slumped. What are you going to do with it? You've got your fancy architecture job in Chicago. You can't run a restaurant. I smiled, a spark of excitement forming. Watch me. That night, after Lucia left, I sat in Abuelo's booth, staring at my resignation letter on my laptop. Sometimes choices make themselves. My phone buzzed, a text from Bradley Sterling. Final offer, $7 million. Don't be foolish. I typed 2 words, not interested. Then I opened a new document. Sol y Sabor Modernization Plan. A vision to honor tradition while embracing the future. Because protecting Abuelo's legacy didn't mean freezing it in time. It meant ensuring his spirit, his passion for feeding people and bringing them together, kept thriving, even if it meant completely changing my life to do it. 6 months later, I stood in Sol y Sabor's kitchen at dawn, watching our new head chef, Mateo, teach the team Abuelo's sacred mole recipe, the same recipe Abuelo once taught me when I was 7, perched on his stool. The secret, Mateo said, isn't just in the ingredients, it's in patience and love. Abuelo would have approved. My phone buzzed, another email from Bradley Sterling's lawyers marked, urgent, final notice. I deleted it unread. For months, they'd tried to poke holes in my power of attorney, filing complaints about code violations, even pushing to have the property rezoned. None of it worked. Ms. Vega, Jenny, our social media manager, approached with a tablet. You'll want to see this. On screen was a Tribune feature, historic restaurants, modern revival, one woman's fight inspires a neighborhood. It described how Sol y Sabor had become a symbol of resistance against big development, and how our updates sparked other small businesses to stand firm. There were quotes from loyal customers and photos of our new hybrid model, traditional table service alongside a modern app I'd built myself. The comments are amazing, Jenny said. People love how you're blending tradition with innovation. And they did. I'd kept Abuelo's core menu, but added contemporary touches. Smart kitchen systems alongside the old clay oven. Online ordering that somehow made the food feel even more personal. Revenue had doubled in 6 months. The bell over the door chimed. Lucia stepped inside, looking uneasy. Aunt Lucia, I said, we hadn't spoken since that fight 6 months ago. The boys, she began. They're in trouble. The developers are suing them for breach of contract. Of course they were. Sterling Development Partners never quit quietly. And what do you expect me to do? I asked. Their family, she pleaded. Despite everything, I led her to Abuelo's booth, now my office. Tell me honestly, I said. If they'd sold this place, would they have shared the money with anyone? Lucia lowered her gaze. No, they wouldn't. I can't fix lawsuits, I said. But I'll offer them jobs, real work, if they're willing. They're too proud. Then they're not desperate enough. Abuelo built Sol y Sabor on hard work, not pride. Lucia glanced around at the new lighting, restored photos, and the espresso bar humming beside the old counter. Be proud, she murmured. He'd be prouder if the family stood together, I replied. Tell the boys my offer still stands, but they have to want to build something, not just profit from it. That night, as dinner service wound down, I saw Javier alone at the bar. Need a job, he muttered. They're gonna take my house. I poured him water. No alcohol until we talk. Kitchen needs help. 5 a.m. tomorrow, minimum wage. You'll work up from the bottom. I have an MBA, he protested. Which hasn't helped you so far, I said. Time to learn the business like Abuelo did. He stared at his glass. I really messed up, didn't I? Yes, I said gently. But Abuelo believed in second chances. One condition. You owe him an apology. I led him to Abuelo's photo on the wall. Tears finally fell. 2 weeks later, Luis joined too. They worked every station. Dishes, prep, serving, cleaning. No shortcuts. Just honest work. A year later, we held a special dinner. The whole family came. Even those who'd sided with the developers. The Sol y Sabor buzzed with laughter and the smell of roasted spices. I stood at the front and raised my glass. Abuela always said the secret isn't just in the recipes, it's in the love. This place isn't just a restaurant, it's our heart, our past, and our future. Outside, our neon sign glows defiantly, proving some treasures can't be measured in millions, but in memories, recipes, and the courage to protect what matters most. If my story resonates with you, leave me a comment and tell me what you'd fight to protect. Subscribe and stand with me as I keep Sol y Sabor alive. Remember, life isn't just about profit, it's about preserving what matters. Never be afraid to build, defend, and cherish your legacy.